Another contemporary artist who's great at running breath alongside tone would be someone like Sting, particularly when he's doing his folkier material. So you get things like, you'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. And just every now and then, he'll bring breath in behind the tone, and it makes you kind of lean forward and listen to what he's doing, because like a whisper, it creates a real sense of intimacy. Many singers believe the aspirate onset and singing with a breathy tone should never, ever be done. There are particular genres of music where it's considered to be an unsafe method of singing, but since the advent of the microphone and the ability to sing very close to a mic at very low volumes, it is a vocal effect that's used throughout contemporary music. So the particular vocal effect that I'm talking about is singing with a breathy tone and starting words with a breathy onset. An onset literally meaning how you start a sound. The reason it divides people is that in a number of genres, particularly classical music and to a certain extent musical theatre as well, singing with very tight chord closure is considered the preferable way of singing, because your voice is carried further, along with a number of other things. It helps you to project your sound more. Whereas if you sing with a very breathy tone, it's never going to travel any distance, and you're going to run out of breath very quickly. So there are disadvantages to having a breathy tone, but there are also advantages in that it creates real intimacy. It's very much like the singer is whispering. And whispering is something that if it is your only way of speaking, if the only way you could speak is at this sort of level, it's not going to be a good default setting. However, we all need to be able to whisper, and in the same way as commercial pop singers, I'm not likely to turn down a job doing backing vocals for Sade because I will only sing with full tone in my voice. So you need to be able to turn it on and turn it off. So like with most vocal effects, it can happen in degrees. It doesn't have to be complete air and no note. It can be slid on a scale from 1 to 10, like any vocal effect, but it's also one that I really think you should consider working on with a vocal coach or a singing teacher, because if it becomes something you can't get out of your voice, it's never going to be a useful default setting. So the aspirate onset starts when, the aspirate onset happens when air starts moving past the vocal cords before the structures have assembled together to cause a seal. So the air is moving through the vocal cords before they start their wave, and that generally happens if you are coming in on a vowel and you precede it with an H. So this is a great way of practicing the aspirate onset, and that can then lead you into singing with a breathy tone. If you think of the vocal cords as being straight rubber bands, you're slightly wrong. It's quite a useful way of thinking about it. But the vocal cords actually, when they open, are more like a V. So they remain together at the front, but when you inhale, the separation creates a V shape, and the letter H enables you to open the vocal cords and exhale. So if you want to get into the breathy tone, the way in for most people would be an aspirate onset, and the way to generate that, if it's not natural to you, is to put an H before a vowel, and then try singing down a scale. Somewhere relatively low in your voice is probably a good idea. So for me it would be, and you can see the tone starts to kick in. It's quite difficult to keep the tone out. So if you start taking it down the scale, a number of singers use this regularly, and it does create a real sense of intimacy. So it is a really useful vocal effect if you can get it into your voice. A couple of people that immediately came to mind for me at the moment would be Ellie Goulding. If you listen to her recording of Lights, there's a lot of tone, but there is a breath running all the way through, almost as if when this V has started to happen and she started to sing, there's just a little bit of air coming through the very back. Like I say, if this becomes your default setting, it can be quite damaging because you can't sing with much power and your phrases will become very short. However, if you can do it by choice, it can be a really nice effect. There are other singers that use it fairly regularly. For me, the singer that I think uses it to the greatest effect is Norah Jones. And if you listen to her Don't Know Why, she sings the first note and then immediately takes a breath, goes into the next phrase with tone, and then dissolves out. So you get, I waited till the... And the whole of the end of the phrase dissolves into breath. And it's one of those effects where I can remember a very wise man saying to me once that if you want to be heard, sing loud. But if you want people to listen, sing quiet. And in contemporary music, it is a way of getting a real intimacy into your voice. But as with all vocal effects, it shouldn't really be your default setting. And it's another vocal effect that really should be worked on with a vocal coach. So singers that use a breathy tone or an aspirate onset would be artists like Sade. And if you listen to some of her earlier material, she uses the breathy onset and she uses a breathy tone sometimes to go into a phrase, and you get that, no need to ask, he's a smooth operator, and then she might bring some tone in. Another contemporary artist who's great at running breath alongside tone would be someone like Sting, particularly when he's doing his folkier material. So you get things like, you'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. And just every now and then, he'll bring breath in behind the tone, and it makes you kind of lean forward and listen to what he's doing, because like a whisper, it creates a real sense of intimacy.